Okay guys, I completed the key to this graphing complex transformations practice. I originally had planned to make this an online submission that I would grade, but I decided that it's probably a little bit more involved since we aren't able to do any of this together. And so I wanted to just go ahead and kind of talk you through what you did. Hopefully you've already attacked this once and have tried it. If you find that you messed up, I encourage you just to print a sheet of graph paper to start over with the image, the pre-image that they gave you, and plot before you move forward on the video so that you can try again to check the next one before you move forward. First thing, 2 notes that I made. Make sure that you watch their scale. For this first question, their scale is counting by 2s. But on the next one, it's just counting by 1. So make sure you pay attention to that as you're walking yourself through this practice. And be sure you label your images correctly. I am going to be looking to make sure that you have labeled it as the image. R is the pre-image, R prime is the image. If you apply this translation correctly, you should end up at 8.2 for R prime. Okay, let's look at the next one. For number 2, we're asked to do 2 different things before we move on. You're only supposed to sketch the triangle once, and you're supposed to sketch it after both of these transformations. You're supposed to do a translation and then a rotation. One limiting thing about this packet is that all of the rotations are a 270-degree rotation. All rotations are counterclockwise unless otherwise specified. I think everything we do has a counterclockwise rotation. So, for example, if I'm rotating this triangle 270 degrees, that is 3 different quadrants. So I would go 90, 180, 270. I know it's going to end up in quadrant 1 just because it's a 270-degree rotation. So that gives me a clue about what I should be getting. When I do my calculations to figure out where my points land, all my points, all of the coordinates should be positive because I'm in quadrant 1 with that 270-degree rotation. Not every rotation is going to be 270 degrees. If I had had the ability to make some alterations to this packet, which I didn't because I had to do something last minute and get it to you online, I would have had 270 degrees, 180 degrees, 90 degrees, different rotation values so that you could practice them all. But you will have access to that key for the test. The way I did this, because all I'm looking for is this sketched image on your graph in the correct location with the correct labels for T prime, R prime, W prime. The way I got there was over on my side work. The very first thing I did was to start with my beginning triangle, the pre-image, and then I applied those translation values of left 1, up 1 to those 3 sets of coordinates. And I got this set of 3 coordinates. Now, I'm not graphing this triangle. I'm not graphing the triangle that is left 1, up 1. I'm just using those coordinates to rotate. So again, I started with my given pre-image. I figured out what the translation of that would be, and I noted it. And then I took those translated points and I rotated them correctly using x, y becomes y negative x. That's my rule for a 270 rotation. This is where my image of my triangle ends up at these coordinates, and that's what it looks like on the graph. Okay, if you did that wrong, stop and print a page of graph paper. Try number 3 again before you continue the video. Okay, number 3. Again, this time I have a parallelogram rectangle, and I'm going to do 2 different transformations before I draw my image. I'm going to do a translation and then a rotation. Those are the 2 transformations I'm going to do. So first I'm going to translate this rectangle. I'm going to move it to the left and down. To the left 2, down 2. Again, watch how your axes are numbered. After I've moved it to the left and down, then I'm going to rotate it 90, 180, 270 degrees. So I thought about where this would be on that translation, and that's what I recorded here so that I would know what points I needed to rotate. and I applied my rule for rotation of 270 degrees. If you don't label your vertices, I won't know whether or not you got your translation correct, because if I look at this, this could be a reflection, except that the points are not in the correct place for a reflection. If this were a reflection, this would be Q prime instead of R prime. If I have a rotation, Q rotates down, over, and then to the bottom. All right, number 4. Number 4 is a little simpler. It's just translating two separate points. Make sure that you watch how your axes are numbered, how that scale goes. This one goes by 2 again. Number 6 through 8, 6, 7, and 8, this one's a little confusing because it's all on one graph. So I didn't set up a grid for number 8 because 8 is just a translation. I'm just moving my triangle to the right and down. So this triangle XYZ becomes X prime, Y prime, Z prime. It moves to the right 1, down 2. That one's a pretty simple little translation. But number 6 and 7 both require both a translation and a rotation. Translate, rotate. For number 6, translate, rotate for number 7. Notice I color coded. Number 6 I did in green, number 7 I did in red, so that you can see where those things end up. Make sure again that you have labeled your images correctly. If you didn't get this right, I strongly recommend that you print off that sheet of graph paper, sketch the original pre-image, and then try it again. All right, and finally, numbers 9 and 10. Number 9, I did the same way I have been. I figured out what my points would be, where they would fall underneath. You know what? Number 9, I'm sorry. Number 9 is just a rotation. So I just applied that rule for rotation 270 degrees, and I rotated this triangle SWV around here. I set up number 10 so that I did the translation first and then the rotation. But when I did the translation they gave, which was to the right 12, down 12, the point values, those coordinates I ended up with, they're not going to fit on this graph. I know that I'm going to be in quadrant 3, because if I start in quadrant 4 and I rotate 90, 180, 270 degrees counterclockwise, I end up in quadrant 3. So I know I'm over here. All of my X and Y coordinates should be negative. Those are the values that you should have. Like I said, they don't fit on this graph. As long as you know what you're doing, that's good. One more time, I would have given you, if I had been prepared for this online switch, I would have given you practice. I would have changed some of these from 270 to 180 or to 90. So make sure you understand what those rules look like as well.